Hello, everyone. I'm Esther Zuckerman, Senior Entertainment Writer at Thrillist, and I'm so pleased to welcome Director Joachim Trier. And actress Renate Reinsve. You don't even need me to say it. Wow. I can't even see everyone.
Wow. Thank you so much. Wow. What a lovely response and so many people. Thank you all for coming.
I can barely see. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is so amazing. Joachim, I wanted to start with you. This is the third film in your Oslo trilogy, but I think what I read was correct, you didn't sort of realize it was part of this whole until after you had started writing. How did this story come to you?
Yeah, no, that's always a bumpy and strange road, how we write these things. I wrote it together with Aksel, who's my old film nerd buddy, who I've written 5 films with, the films I have directed so far. And I told him I wanted to get back to my roots as a filmmaker. And the first 2 films we collaborated on was a film called Reprise and a film called Oslo, August 31st. And there was something about Oslo as a city that I'd grown up in. And, you know, I just felt there was this environment and these types of characters that I wanted to do something with. And then I realized there was this person that I'd worked with on Oslo, August 31st in a small role, this young actress who had 1 line of dialogue in that film. And she hadn't really been given the feature film lead part yet. And do you remember what that line of dialogue was, Renate?
Let's go to the party.
Yeah. Don't you agree I owed her more than that? More to chew on? So, truth be told, that was actually also a motivation. Yeah. That I knew that we were writing for Renate was actually a big motivation for this.
Renate, what was it like when Joachim approached you with this idea to center you in this film?
Well, I was always expecting him to be like, sorry, that I was wrong. And also, like, until I was on the first day on set, I was like, okay, I am here. I got this role. You kept me this whole way. Yeah, but it was, I couldn't believe it. It was a fantastic role. You know, it's so complex. It's very rare that you have a female character that is this well written. So I was very happy.
Well, I wanted to ask sort of both of you about the process of developing this character, the sort of idea that Reprise and Oslo, August 31st, both sort of heavily focused on male characters. You're centering this female character. How was Renate involved in sort of your idea of the character and then sort of the writing of it?
Maybe you want to answer that first. I mean, we wrote a draft and nervously showed it to you, and yeah, maybe you want to say something about it.
Did you?
I showed you a draft I gave you a piece of paper that I called a screenplay at some point, didn't I?
Oh, yeah, but a draft? Is that what it is in English?
It did change, though.
Because I thought you meant, like, because you gave me, like, one piece of paper said, like, what it was going to be about, but then was before the script.
A draft of the screenplay, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay. I just didn't know draft in English.
And it keeps evolving as we
Norwegian.
go towards the shoot, I guess is the point.
Yes. What do you want me to say?
Did that make sense, what I showed you? No? Okay. You said so at the time. That gave me faith.
Okay, I'm going to answer. Because, when I read the first script that you call draft, I was nervous because you said you wrote it with me in mind, and I was nervous not to like have contact with the material and everything. But I was just so surprised and so happy about how, accurate the portrayal of a woman. Like, I felt she was me, but I felt she wasn't only me, she was so many people. It was very universal, and it wasn't just... And you don't write you don't write a woman, you write a very complex human being, and then a part of her identity is being a woman, and that's important for you and Aksel. So we never really talked that much about gender, but about these big existential situations and problems she's in. Yeah.
What about the search for identity? This sort of like the 30-something, I think, movie there's been a lot of exploration, but this gets it so right. And especially, this identity now. What is it sort of about this age range that appealed to you, sort of figuring it out? And especially in this time, the sort of millennial identity crisis.
To be frank, I have been exploring identity crisis for 5 films now, more or less. It says something about me, I guess. But no, I think it's not getting easier. That society is really giving us a lot of options how to represent and present ourselves. Yeah. I don't know if that necessarily comes hand in hand with a good guide to how it is to actually be. Yeah. And I do find it intriguing to both sympathize with a character like Julie. I don't judge her. I think that's a great character. She's very spare of the moment, idealist, romantic, dreaming kind of character. She's a dreamer. I like that. But she also has this sort of chameleon side to her where she avoids certain things and tries on different identities and outfits, but maybe in the middle of that there's also a sense of sadness and loneliness that I was curious to explore in that character, and it's always tricky when I sit down and write. I don't necessarily start out by doing sort of a generational analysis, but it's a great compliment if people identify with it and say that it has traits of something in our day and age, but it's nothing that you can really plan. You have, as a creative person, you try to be a good observer and you hope that some truth comes out of that.
What was the sort of prologue? Why did you want to do the sort of prologue, chapters, epilogue structure for this one?
I guess it's an easy way to mishmash a lot of different strange ideas together and try to create a structure. I wanted the film to feel like it had a lot of different emotions in it. And I felt also this ambition was important, that we would watch a development of a part of a human life and move forward. And one of the wonderful things about making movies is to stretch and bend time, and actually through the chapters we are allowed to omit things, to leave things out, and to jump ahead. And suddenly there's Christmas and there's summer again, and suddenly we've covered quite a few years in someone's life through that structure, and hopefully also it gives us a bit of leeway as storytellers to say that these moments together will create one story, but we're allowed to kind of delve into a mushroom trip or a sad moment at a hospital, or someone meeting at a party that she sneaks into, and that the film has these kind of moments that we spend time on, but then maybe time passes in between them.
Well, I wanted to ask both of you, the sort of these moments where you sort of break with reality are so incredible. You have the running scene through Oslo. I wanted to ask both of you just like, what was the process of filming that like, but also on a sort of philosophical level, like what did those sort of breaks with reality mean for you?
Are you looking at me?
Both of you.
Yeah. No, it's very different to see the movie and to be in, like, acting in the movie. It's two very different things. It's a big sadness to not like act in this movie every single day, and it's a bit painful to watch it because you see yourself, blah blah blah. Okay, but it's no, it's really about the same kind of filling the moments the same way and try to layer it and find all the details in every moment for those scenes too. But they look really like. But that's you have to talk about that.
No, but it's interesting. I mean, we always talk about any scene in relation to character, and like the mushroom scene. It was technically complicated. There was sort of digital body swapping, and you had to actually hit another actor in the face with a tampon. Yeah. That was kind of technically challenging, and you managed on the 4th try, which the whole team was kind of that's good going. So that impressed me. But just first of all, even going along with that whole weird sequence and making sense of it in terms of character development was really great in our collaboration, I thought, and it made sense to both of us. But also like the running through Oslo with frozen time, that was fun. We played a lot of music on set, and that scene was done in the late summer of 2020. when we'd all been inside a lot and been kind of felt lonely, and we had waited making the film and it had been delayed, and suddenly we were allowed to have like cops stop traffic, play music to warm up with all these extras that had trained to stand still, and we did it in camera, and we did that, and you were allowed to run through, and I thought those were really wonderful. That was good days on set.
Yeah. And then suddenly, you know, I don't know if you heard, but because we tell this all, but people joined in. So I would run up and down, up and down, up and down, and suddenly there were more people standing still, like they've joined in the scene. So there are more people.
Just random people. On
They've been seeing like out of their windows, like, okay, let's join this thing. It looks fun. Yeah.
That caused continuity problems where you're just like, oh, we gotta make sure we get
the
that.
Production people got release forms and went up to these like, are you sure you want to be a part of the film? I'm standing like this, ain't I? You know, like it was. So we had a lot of wonderful people join in.
Yeah.
Obviously, Anders, who plays Aksel, has a long part of has been in many of your films. And I wanted to ask you, we're obviously in Oslo, but what was the process of that relationship is so special on screen? What was the process of, you know, for you, Renate, of you and Anders sort of working together and sort of figuring out, getting on the same page?
Yeah, so the first thing we talked about was that it's really hard to see who these people are because they're so complex. It's really like it's hard to know how to do or know how to be them. But it was almost like the main character of every scene was the dynamic between the characters and what would happen between the characters. So we kind of relied on that, and we needed to build trust. And Joachim is very, very good at building trust, so we felt very safe. Me and Anders would also do this thing where we showed each other what we were most shameful of. I won't say what he did, but I took him to my hometown because it's not even a town, it's not even a place, it's just like some houses and like a detour around another place. It's so I was really, really shameful, and I couldn't even speak because he's a doctor, he's married to a supermodel, he's so good, and I hadn't worked with him before. I was really just didn't say anything, just showed him the place, and then it got us close. Yes. That's the, and then, yeah, he's just really, really, really good. So it's easy to, be in the moment with him in those scenes. Yeah.
If you didn't know, Anders actually is a real doctor.
Yeah.
That is an actual fact. He is a medical doctor.
Oh, he's very impressive. My joke is that he's the Norwegian Daniel Day-Lewis, but instead of going to make Italian leather shoes, he removes appendixes. He's got this very strange life. But I think it's a good thing, though, to have someone, and I think that goes for you too. You live in reality. Like Anders goes out and deals with real things. He deals with helping people. He's in rooms where people die. I mean, he's in he sees humanity and its complexity, and he can draw on that as an actor, and I think that's inspiring as well. It's very attractive, of course, as director to get him to actually act in a film again. So.
You were filming during COVID. What was the process of, how did that change your process at all? What was it like sort of being on set with all those restrictions?
Good and bad. I mean, it was tricky. We were all very worried that someone would get ill and we would have to shut down. So I think the producers, more than anyone, were very brave to greenlight again after we'd waited to go into production. The upside was that we had to get more money, and in Norway we don't have so many people as in the US. I've shot films here, in New York even, which was a very enjoyable, wonderful crew. But here you have you have catering that makes food, and then you also have another department making hamburgers, and they kind of compete over who will eat what. And I mean, it's like 10 times the amount of people. So because of COVID, we had to get you guys trailers, which no one in Norway has, to holding areas. So you'd be isolated between takes and stuff. So you were sleeping in your trailer, and it became a little bit more Hollywoody because of, and that was maybe enjoyable in some ways.
It was.
I wanted to ask you both about the party sequence, Renate's, Julie's party crash, because it is such a joyous sequence. It's so wonderful. The chemistry you guys have is so incredible. What was the process of filming that like? How was that all? You're laughing.
We had a lot of fun. No, it was you didn't even finish your question. Sorry.
No, you can just. I was just talking. You can continue.
Yeah, no, it was also a lot about building trust. But Herbert, the guy who plays Eivind, I knew him from before because he went one class above me in acting school. So, but it was really about the whole way, really. But here also about opening up to be honest about what love is for us, and what, when you're trying to be your most charming version and be smart and all that stuff, you also bring, shame and I know stuff you don't like about yourself. So it was always like trying to be open up to that stuff and be very detailed in, all the layers that when you meet someone. So it was like very like a base of very thoroughly, I don't know, what do you say, preparation? And then we just like let go and we danced on set and put on music. You put on music and we had fun. So that's the recipe. Thank you. Yes. So long.
Music's obviously very important. I mean, the soundtrack is phenomenal. It's so great. But like, how do you use music on set and to create this environment in a scene like that?
Well, I think my job is to set the scene so that the mood is right. And every morning we talk to the whole team about what the scene we're doing, or those scenes we're doing that day are about. And we try to play music or create a mood so that the actors can just come out of those expensive trailers and go straight on set in front of the camera, having sort of emotionally prepared and do their job. And isn't that kind of how we do it?
Yes.
And I think the music is about that. I mean, I DJ as well, Welcome to my midlife crisis. But I have done it since the 90s. So, it's just a continuation of an ongoing crisis, I'm sure. But I really care. I mean, we played a lot of, you responded well to like, I figured out, like as I was experimenting, but like 1978 to 1981 soul disco was your thing, it turned out. So we played the Commodores a lot. You seem to respond well to that. That gave you energy. That was good. Good music.
Yeah, it is good music.
No, but I guess your question is also about the music that we use in the film.
No, it's both.
It's not always the same as what we run around and dance to on set. It's. I'm very proud of the soundtrack, I have to say. I wanted this film to feel a bit like a musical, and I'm too shy to have people break into song and dance. So, I'm after all from Norway, and but I think like we they have Harry Nilsson, Todd Rundgren, Simande, Billie Holiday, Christopher Cross, a lot of music that I really love. And the last song in the film, Art Garfunkel's Waters of March, a great bossa nova tune by Antonio Carlos Jobim, that Art Garfunkel made a wonderful album in 1971. He had been depicted on covers with that other guy for a long time, and he made an album called Breakaway, where he's with two ladies in a bar. I love that album. Anyway, so that's Art Garfunkel doing a Brazilian cover. And I thought the lyrics are wonderful, sort of stream of consciousness. Great way of ending the film. We thought about it while writing, and it actually fit, and we were lucky to get the rights.
Well, I do love the ending, and I always like to ask about endings at Q&As because people have just seen the movie. But can you talk a little bit about sort of the idea of jumping ahead, incorporating the pandemic a little bit, sort of seeing Julie in this moment, sort of outside of the plot? Like, what was the thought behind that?
Yeah, I'd like the progression. I mean, so those are kind of two questions. I mean, the pandemic thing was the film has a theme very clearly, I guess, which is time. How time develops, how we feel we lose time, how time can be a pressure. We can have bad timing in relationships. We try to nourish the sense of romantic individual moments in this film, yet time is fleeting, and so I thought it's also making a movie. I like the idea that the truth comes from performances, but that the film can be quite formally playful, also in admitting itself as a film and a piece of fiction to the audience. So I thought adding that moment at the end with COVID, which was obviously not planned because we didn't know as we were writing the film, but it's just another moment that will pass, you know. Time flies. Suddenly we'll be without these masks and things will be different. And I thought it was nice to report on that. I think that my little sidebar perhaps, you know, just quickly, I come from skateboarding, and I used to film my friends in my teens jump down staircases and break their arms or manage incredibly sophisticated skateboard tricks. And in the autumn every year after the summer, we would cut it all together and I'd put on music, and I learned a lot from that. And those films are still very dear to me. They're reports on those human lives at that moment in that summer in that city. And I look back at them, and I've lost some of those friends because, you know, skateboarders go in all directions in life. Some end up great places, others don't. And I look at my films in the same way. I think it's wonderful to we reported on that year together. And for me, that's still going to be like an album of some sort, like a report of that time. And in our city, our previous films, Reprise and Oslo August 31st, are like that. People watch them now and laugh and, oh my God, that was a building site in that one film. And 10 years later, we make this film, and Eivind is working at a coffee shop in that new area of town that used to be a building site in the other film. And this is how cinema has stuff happening outside of our control. And so I thought a moment of COVID was kind of a valuable thing.
That's amazing. We're going to open this up to a couple of questions. So I can't really see, but if people could raise their hands. I see a question right there.
So it's a question about the process of rehearsals and building trust between director and actors. I'll try to be short. Thank you for your question. It's a good question, and it's hard to answer. My job is to be individualist and specific about what each actor needs. Rehearsals, I kind of pretend towards the actors that it's their time to just try out things, and that's true. But it's also my opportunity to get to know them and to try to figure out how to stimulate each one of them. Are they triggered by just really a lot of patting on the back and confidence, or did they want to be challenged? Like what's their psychological makeup? Like what do they need, you know? But it's always pragmatic. I start every session with every actor always on all films by asking, what are you scared of? Like someone will confide in you, I'm so nervous about that scene when I'm dancing, and we'll say, okay, we'll get some dance person to help you figure that out, or I'm gonna sing, or I'm nervous about that, I don't understand this. And like getting people figuring it out, solving it all, talking, sharing emotional input about what it means to us, and then slowly trying to erase the separation between the character and the actor's life. And I find that most good actors halfway through and you also told me this, like halfway through the film you're like, I don't know, am I Julie, who am I mean, you kind of lose it. And that means I've done my job, and I'll take care of you, and I'll help you bring you out of it too. But
when?
I knew you'd say that. But I think trust is important. And I feel a lot of the things we're dealing with in the film environment now, which is good, is really about, it's a tough business, and there's a lot of assholes around, and we need to, nourish the trust and the open conversation that actors are as important in deciding how things happen as directors, and that we try to be humble to that and respect that. And in a film like this, for example, I have final cut, which I'm very grateful for, but I'd love to have input from everyone, also in editing and in the process of working with performers. If there are scenes of nudity, for example, I have a great responsibility towards the actors to make sure that we do it in a way that they feel comfortable. And that's a part of Final Cut no one talks about, because I actually have that responsibility. I can't have a third party get involved in how that's going to be perceived. Sometimes you shoot longer takes, and I have to make sure that they know how that material is being treated. And the same goes for emotional scenes. So that's trust. It's not only about trusting on set, but that the whole process, when they take risks, is being taken care of in a respectful and proper way for the film and for them.
Incredible answer. We have time for one more. I see somebody right there. Yeah, you.
What was your goal by the end of the film? Did you want us to love her, to hate her, to relate to her? Because I'm still sitting here very confused, which I feel like a good thing. But I guess what was your goal by the end of the movie?
No, it's a great question, actually, and one that's hard to answer. I want you to, ideally, and who am I to decide? It's up to you guys now. You have the film. I have to let go, I think if you can identify with her ambivalence and her confusion somehow and bring that with you tonight and think about it in your own life, that would be the best thing for me. It's easy to create characters that are conclusive, but I don't know anyone who quite conclude like big subject matters of identity and dealing with mortality and grief and love and stuff. That's ongoing stuff. So I have this cheesy idea, so please forgive me, but I'd like to think that I make films for friends that I don't know. And I think in good friendships you challenge each other and you think aloud and you talk about stuff you're not completely certain about. So I hope that's okay, man. I hope you go home and that you feel okay about not having all the answers. Yeah, as a filmmaker, again, they're young filmmakers. This is not an excuse to be vague, I try to be specific as much as I can. But I think thematically and in terms of identification with characters, it's more fun if there is a sense of openness and ambivalence. Thank you.
Well, great. I think we have to wrap. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you, Joachim. Thank you, Renate.
Thank you.